You're listening to the Bleach Brothers podcast, hosted by B-Word and Jake. Welcome to the Bleach Brothers podcast. This is B-Word, and I'm here with Jake. And you guys really should have been in the green room with us. This
Dude, I was gonna say it.
This was an interesting thing. So let me set the premise here. So Jake just started coughing, and of course, me being a jackass, I asked Jake if he's done choking on the cock. And Jake, what did you say?
Instead of being like a normal guy, just like no and like argue it, I just said, argue back. I just said no. I popped off a midget's penis in the back of my throat like a Certs mint, hoping that it would marinate better, and it failed me.
Yeah, and then of course I have to talk about the midget's man part, flicking Jake's little punching bag in the back of his throat.
The uvula, right? Isn't it the uvula?
Dude, I have no clue what it's called. I just know of it as a little punching bag.
I'm proud of myself right now because if that's right, I think I'm actually pronouncing something right too. Whenever I see that little thing, though, if I open my mouth, now all I think of is the song WAP and Cardi B wanting me to like tag it really hard with a mushroom stamp of approval.
That is the worst song ever.
I'm not saying it's a good song. I'm just saying that's what makes me think of uvulas.
Anyway, how's your week been, bud?
It's been good, man. I've my new, people know I got a new job. I love it. It's been going well. And just been hanging out, doing projects around. It started raining up here. It's my favorite season in the Northwest. It's fall. The leaves are changing, and it's just nonstop pouring. And
doesn't it rain all the time where you're at, though?
The summers, no. It's a beautiful summers. However, up here lately, it's been hotter than normal. That's why we got air conditioning, which used to not be a thing here. But it is. It rains 9 months out of the year, I'd say. Nonstop. And even in the summer, you'll get some rain, but not much. But yeah, now it's in that whole overcast every day, tiny bit of sun, rains all day. It's my favorite weather. What do the basic bitches call it? Sweater weather?
Sweater weather, pumpkin spice weather.
Yeah, what about you?
By the way, I'm just going to shout out to AC. I have no clue if she's actually going to listen to this, but she is the biggest pumpkin spice bitch that I've ever met.
You know what's cool about, me and you go way back, B-Word, but did you know I go, like, people joke that I know a lot of people, right? And she used to be a fan of my radio show in Vegas when I used to host with the Travesty. Right. And she ended up marrying one of your really close friends. So everything comes full circle.
Dude, it's crazy how small this world is, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of how small the world is, and this is probably a terrible transition, but we talked about going into the show that we really didn't know when a good place was in our podcast schedule to actually review What If, right?
Right.
And the final episode, so the 9th episode came out today. And I kind of want to get our reaction. Like, what do we think? What did we expect? What didn't show up that we expected to show up? Do we like the way it's going? Like, talk to me a little bit about, number one, the finale. And then what did you think overall?
First off, what time did you watch it?
I watched it last night at like midnight.
Oh, me too. Oh, we should have done a lame ass watch party together.
I know that would have been. I couldn't sleep last night, dude. It was just crazy.
I was up. I was working on my iTunes library because you know me, I'm a OCD nerd. But no, I turned it on right when it aired. I was a little nervous in the sense of we saw some trailers and spoilers, or not spoilers, but some parts of it that we thought were going to happen, and I'm happy some of them didn't. Overall, I thought it was a good finale. It wasn't my favorite series.
No, mine either. Mine either.
I know you're not a big cartoon fan because we've talked about it, like with the DC universe, how you don't watch those movies. And so I don't have a problem with the cartoon aspects. a lot of this series felt forced, and I do want you to explain something, Beaver, because I didn't know this until me and you talked. Why it's 30 minutes long?
So my understanding as to why it's 30 minutes long has to do with the Spider-Man contract with Sony. So the sharing agreement. So I think and I could be wrong, it could be backward, but I think for the 30-minute time frame, number one, with Spider-Man, Sony has the ability to do cartoons greater than 30 minutes. So that's why Marvel produced the Spider-Man cartoons. And then with the way that Sony's contract holds, that's why they were able to do like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, such a longer film cartoon-wise, and they're able to do the full features, obviously. So I think that that's part of the reason. Whether that's the entirety of the reason, I don't know. But I did find myself getting a little distraught because of how rushed some of these episodes were. I mean, thank goodness I've watched everything, or else there'd have been a lot of questions potentially, like if this was the very first, content of Marvel that I had watched. But yeah, what'd you think of the 30 minutes?
So I don't mind it. I'm not saying I wanted every episode to be longer. I don't want it to be taken that way. And I understand that it was rushed in certain aspects of the point that we don't need a retelling of the story. I mean, one of my biggest complaints, and I'm going to go back to the movie Hulk, not the Incredible. Remember Hulk in like 2004, I think, or whatever.
With Eric Bana.
How we didn't need an hour and a half to know that he got shot by radiation to turn into a big green man. So I get that, and I understand it was a retelling of events that have sort of already happened. I mean, it was very prevalent in the first episode with Captain Carter, where there's quick jokes, it's quick and witty, but it just seemed forcefully written and trying to keep up with the Marvel sense of humor without, like a comedian, if he was just telling his jokes and never stopped to pause to let the audience laugh.
Right.
That's how it felt. The punchlines never landed. The story was going through, and it not that Marvel doesn't have a problem with this, but everything was very like formulaic in the sense of, oh, I know what's going to happen. I know where this guy's going to go. I know there was very few episodes where I was like surprised. And I think that's what bothered me. Like when I watched WandaVision, I was surprised almost every episode. When I watched even Falcon Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier, I was surprised. So this one, there wasn't a lot of things that happened that made me think like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Like there might have been a tiny part, or that's cool to see, but yeah.
I think I'm there with you. Candidly, I think I had higher hopes for What If, and there's probably a lot of people out there that absolutely loved it. And while I didn't think it was terrible, I just didn't think it was great. And I liked what they did with some of the characters. Like, I liked the fact that they killed Tony Stark in damn near every episode. Like that was great. And I saw a theory that actually said that there's absolute points in the multiverse, and that Tony Stark dying is an absolute point. Well, that was proven incorrect on this last episode, because there was a Tony Stark alive with Gamora. But I had an issue with that too, because they also rushed the series to production, and with the Rona, they didn't air that last episode with Gamora. So like they just introduced Gamora and Tony Stark and the Hulkbuster stuff, and then she's just like kidnapped from that point, and now she's a guardian of the multiverse, and there was like no lead up to that.
But they also stated, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that they're saving that for the next season because of implications of what was going to be shown.
Okay, and okay, that's fine. But then why did you even include her in the finale?
Well, like because it's already drawn.
I mean, fair. Well, there's a lot of talk as to these characters actually making themselves into the MCU. Like they're actually going to become live action. Like whether it's Captain Carter, or even like Doctor Strange in the fashion that Doctor Strange is in there. I think that there's a lot of good characters in there. A lot of people like the Doctor Strange episode. I didn't really like the Doctor Strange episode, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here as far as the the overall here. But what I do want to at least say is that I just expected more. And in the last episode, I'm going to go into spoilers real quick. So if you don't want to hear these, go ahead and fast forward. But in the last episode, it was too simple. Like when Ultron just like cut Thanos in half and like took the stones. And then in this one, it was way too simple for this group of some of them are superheroes and some of them aren't, but this group of individuals to just rip the stones out of Ultron. Like it wasn't this tremendous battle that I was expecting. And I guess it's kind of like your argument with DC that, you know, the most of the villains are aliens, and it's just a really hard thing to try to grasp, if that makes sense. I just think it was I like where they're going with it. I guess I wanted more.
My 2 points were this. One, do you, and I do have a question for you. Do you want this to connect to the real world? Do you need it to connect to the real world MCU? Not want. I'm going to say need.
Do I need it? No. And then let me answer, do I want it? No, I don't.
See, and I agree, because like that's the one thing I enjoy about the DC universe. It doesn't need to be included. It's they know it's its own series, and that's what I was hopeful for when they were doing that. I was like, okay, because I love the What If comics. I have a few that I've read. I mean, you know, I know everybody was hyped about the zombie one. I'm not a zombie fan, and I think that was one of my least favorite episodes. Just because I mean, I get it. I understand the aspects. I mean, it wasn't the lowest rated episode, but for me, I'm just not a zombie fan. And I don't like how some of them were super powerful, even though they're brainless. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know. The other thing I have a problem with, though, is if the main villain dies off something that I call a talk out loudable meme. And what I mean by that is B-word, where I can make fun of it so quick and witty. That's how stupid it is. Because Ultron, being the smartest AI, didn't have Norton antivirus.
Right.
Was his like fucking 30-day trial up, you know, the annoying thing where you get the banner? I mean, why the fuck does the smartest AI not have a Trojan protector?
Well, and
you're
it's
telling
just,
me,
yeah,
like that pissed me off. I get that's the easiest way to defeat him, and you put the little arrow in his brain. Also, like how the fuck did Black Widow become Hawkeye all of a sudden? I'm not saying that she can't shoot as well, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that was my issue.
I think there was a lot of liberties taken with What If, and I'm fine with the liberties taken. I just don't know where it's going to go from here. And with Ultron becoming this massive villain, he had the ability to kind of take on that Galactus persona. And while he kind of did that in episode 8,
where no pun intended, where he was the giant,
yeah, where he was pun intended eating through galaxies. It became a very small battle. You know, if this guy's this big, why is he shrinking down to fight these people? I don't know. I'm hoping that the MCU, I mean, I want them to introduce Galactus. Obviously in Eternals, they're going to talk about the Celestials, and those are all large beings as well. So my hope is that this will lay the groundwork for us to kind of accept what's going on. But separately too, I just wanted more, I guess. And I liked it. I mean, I didn't not like it, but it just wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my final point on that is I liked it. I enjoyed it. I watched it every week. I was tuned in. I was more invested in the beginning of it, and then near the middle, I was like, okay, because I knew what was going to happen, where it was going to go, and I didn't do a lot of spoilers online to like figure it out beforehand. I always wanted to know what episode was sort of coming next, even though it sort of was given away in the, you know, the pre trailers we got like a year ago.
Yeah.
But speaking of something that you enjoyed, but you might not have loved, did you watch Venom 2 this opening weekend too?
Yeah. Yeah. I went and saw it on Sunday with our friend Angela, and man, I have a huge issue with some of these movies where you take a villain that like Ultron as an example in Age of Ultron, and you just kill him, like he's just gone. Or you take any big villain, and you just like, okay, you're just done, you're dead, and we're never going to use you again. And one of my favorite storylines in the in the Spider-Man comics is Maximum Carnage, and separation anxiety. And that's where Venom and Spider-Man get together and they take on Venom. And in this universe, and I'm going to say this universe, and we can elaborate here in a minute, they just killed him. Like they just killed
Cletus
Carnage.
Cassidy, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're never going to see Spider-Man with Carnage. And so that has a lot of questions with, okay, well, what are the storylines going to be with Eddie Brock? I mean, obviously there's going to be this battle between him and Peter Parker, and then, of course, Venom and Spider-Man. But after that, then what?
Right. See, okay, so I'll be positive here for a second. I liked the movie in the sense of I knew what I was going to watch.
Right.
Venom's my favorite character of all time. We've talked about that. I enjoyed that Andy Serkis was directing because I think he knows what the hell he's doing with CGI, and it was really proven. The motion capture, the fight scenes were great, or the fight scene. They also played very well on the Eddie Brock Venom characterization of getting along and stuff. There was a lot of things that happened in that movie that I did not expect. Some great, some terrible. So overall, I didn't find myself really like wanting to fall asleep or zoning out. I was invested, but partially my investment, I think, was due to I know this storyline. I know where we're going. I'm interested to see how it changes and how it's going to develop and what's next. Right. How are they going to fight? Who's going to be there? Shriek was the most annoying character. He was played over the top, which is what I thought Woody Harrelson was going to do, and he knocked it out of the park.
Woody Harrelson did a bang-up job as Carnage.
He did. I mean, for the amount he was in. I mean, but again, felt really rushed. And I mean, I'm not saying I wanted the movie longer than an hour and a half. I think it was an hour and 37 minutes, which was actually refreshing for once, not having to go see like this long conglomerate, huge, epic film.
Right.
However, there's more story that could be told, which is why the fuck are you going to kill Carnage at the end if you're going to make a short movie too? Two, I understand the multiverse because the after credit scene, shows that it's going to connect. And maybe he's alive in it, but I'm trying to figure out like how that's going to work. And me and you have debated that. Like, will Venom not know who Cletus is, or if he sees Cletus, he'll just stay away from him? You know what I mean?
Well, the big question is like, and I don't mean to interrupt you here, but the big question is, so again, spoiler, at the very end credit of Venom, basically there's more or less this transport through dimensions or through multiverse. And Venom sees Peter Parker as Spider-Man on television, and it just so happens to be Tom Holland. And so it creates this new rivalry or battle that way. But here's where I have a question. Here's where I think it offers more questions than answers. Like, if Venom understands that that's Spider-Man, and Venom also understands about Carnage and everything that happened, and he's able to retain all of those memories, why aren't other people able to retain the memories?
Right.
And then you've got different characters. So in Spider-Man No Way Home, you've got Doc Ock, who recognizes Tom Holland as the Peter Parker Spider-Man from his universe. And again, assuming that Jamie Foxx's Electro is going to do the same thing. Now, if all of these villains recognize Tom Holland as Spider-Man, then where does that go? Like, I just think it's more questions than answers. I agree with you, however, and I just want to make a quick point here. I thought the movie was watchable. I thought it was good. It wasn't a terrible movie. It was probably, C plus, B minus if I were to rate it. I thought it was good. I thought the characters were good. I agree with you with Shriek. The one thing that I just couldn't get over is in every scene there was music, and that was really hard for me to focus on.
Yeah, see, and I was the exact opposite. When I was in film studies class in college, we actually would watch films without music at all. And so I think that's a personal preference thing, B-word, because I mean, me and you are the opposite on that. The music doesn't bother me, and I think it adds to the tone, it adds to the pace. So that doesn't bother me. And I mean, I know, like you said, it got to you a bit. I think my biggest problems were the continuity, how it ended, the rushness. But I mean, overall, I still enjoyed a Venom film. Looked good.
Yeah.
We got the fan service we wanted. But the two, besides Shriek being annoying, in my opinion, and overacted, I did not like how much Carnage symbiote they use. I think they overuse those in the sense of like he's climbing up, he can almost cover a whole building like the Blob.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I understand they can stretch and do a lot, but it takes energy and stuff like that. And like now you just made it so they're literally impossible. He can be standing on the ground and knock out 9 helicopters then. So you just, I don't know, it's overpowered. The other thing is the whole toxin introduction. Essentially, if that's what we got, if Carnage is dead, what the fuck are they going to do with that story? Because that whole story is revolved around that, like you said. And so,
there was no part of it where we saw Carnage or Venom break off a symbiote into toxin.
No, but also like you're telling me Carnage got birthed the way he did, which they did a decent job of how that worked out. And then instantly Carnage is pregnant and has another, or, does whatever symbiotes do and makes another one right away.
Yeah.
Like, then why the hell in the first one weren't all the other ones doing that?
Right.
You get what I mean? Like, so.
No, I do.
But I think the humor was there, which I didn't really enjoy in the first one as much. I thought it was better played this time, but I think it's because the storyline around it made more sense.
I loved what they did with Venom. I mean, so again, spoiler, but you have Venom who separated from Eddie Brock, and he basically took on different hosts. But in doing so, you got Venom's personality, and you got Venom's character, and you got Venom's humor and his anger, and you got all of those emotions that I thought they did a phenomenal job with that, especially when he was, I don't know if it was like a pride party or what it was, but he's got all the neon things on him and he's talking about coming out from hiding. And I don't remember if he said coming out of the closet, but it was implied
coming out of
way.
the Eddie closet, bro. That's what he said.
Okay.
Coming out of the Eddie closet. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was hilarious. That was so funny. And I really enjoyed that part of it. Like I said, it was a good movie. Is it worth a watch? Yeah, 110%. I would suggest that anybody watches this movie. I think it's good. I just think it provides more questions than it does answers, and that's just kind of where I struggle with that.
Well, like, so I'll agree with you in the sense of if somebody knows what they're going to watch, go watch it. Like, I treat it like when I watched Pacific Rim, I went to go watch giant robots beat up giant monsters, and I was happy with that. I didn't really give a shit about the story. I'm going, of course, I expect more from Venom because I like the character, but with the way the first one was, I didn't expect it to be that much better. So it was good.
Does it make you more excited for Spider-Man No Way Home?
To answer questions, yeah, but not as much if Carnage is really dead and if they're going to do a toxin story, how that's going to work. So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for Spider-Man on its own. I've sort of always separated those two already because I never had really high hopes, even though they said, they might not ever come together, and then they are coming together. I don't know how I feel about Venom going in there. If he's in that movie, I think I'll be more excited because it's like they just did it then, and they're really going full bore with it. But if it's going to take 4 years for them to come together, yeah, I'll watch it, and I'll still be invested, but I won't. I'm not as hyped I'm more hyped about Daredevil being in Spider-Man and Kingpin than Venom. Which
I don't know that either one of them are going to be in Spider-Man, but at least they're going to cross over at some point.
No, I'm not saying that they are B-word. What I'm saying is, out of the 3 characters, I would rather have those 2 in it than Venom, which says a lot because Venom's such an integral part. Because they've already done Venom without it. Like, how do you backtrack and give him the black suit now? How do you give him the white spider? How do you make him shoot his webs? Like, you're having to retroact so much that at some point, is it even worth it?
Did you see Topher Grace trolling on Twitter?
Yeah.
About Venom?
Yeah.
That was probably the best modern trolling that I've seen. The fact that he's saying that he's in Venom and he's coming up with all these different scenarios and just absolutely just pissing fans off. I love that, dude.
I'm a big fan of trolling. We know that.
Mhm.
But speaking of trolls, do you believe in trolls, B-word? Like
I don't know, man. Like, it wouldn't shock me. So I'm a huge fan of like Game of Thrones, right? Obviously not the last season. That was terrible. But like mythical stuff like that.
So fantasy. Like,
yeah, fantasy.
Okay.
And like, so giants and trolls and dragons and that sort of stuff. Wizards. Merlin, as a matter of fact, like the whole Knights of the Round Table when we were growing up, I loved reading about that. And I loved everything about Merlin because he was a wizard and because I thought that he was like great, dude. Like I was a huge fan. So do I believe in trolls? Like, I don't know. I think they may have existed before. It's just kind of hard to believe given the facts that we have today.
True. Like, so if you believed in trolls, do you believe like how, like in Norway and stuff, they believe in like the giant trolls or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's certain things in the world like Stonehenge.
Mhm.
How the hell did that happen? Right?
People were really high, bro.
Right? I mean, they were smoking whatever kind of chiba it was and putting some rocks together in some formations. And like, I'm good with all of that. I'm totally fine with all of that. But it's just kind of hard to explain it given what we rationalize with.
Right. Certain things are hard to explain. So like, all right. So in this realm, then if we're going to go down this, what do you believe in? Like out of list of like cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, is there stuff you believe in or don't believe in?
I think that there's a spiritual world that affects our world, if that makes sense. So with the whole ghosts and that sort of stuff, I think that that's probably more realistic than some other things that might be out there. More and more, though, with all the documentation that's coming out with UFOs, and all these videos that like the Navy and Air Force and shit are coming out with, it's kind of almost hard to disprove those, you know? And I think that, you know, if God created the universe, right?
Mhm.
Why would he only populate this planet?
Because he was
So
bored.
as far as like aliens go, I don't know how smart other aliens are. And I'm not saying that because I'm, trying to think that we're the smartest out of the bunch. But I do think that it's a worthwhile conversation that there could be other life on other planets. It just might not be the life that we're anticipating.
So I don't believe in ghosts.
Why not?
I mean, I think something happens when you die. But I don't believe ghosts are just hanging out, fucking with people. I really don't. I understand there's things I can't explain and people would argue with me. But one thing I find funny, because I believe in UFOs. Now, there's a few points on that. I believe in aliens with UFOs, and I also believe in UFOs, because I think when I was a kid, all UFOs were flown by aliens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the older I get and the more I watch it, I also realize how smart the government is when all they ever do is reply to them as UFOs, in the sense of it's just an unidentified flying object.
Right.
It could be flown by Russia. It could be flown by China. It could be, you know what I mean? It could be time travelers.
You remember when we were, I guess we were in elementary school. I don't remember what grade, and the stealth bomber. I mean, we didn't live that far away from where the stealth bomber was made.
No, we're near 51.
Yeah. So we actually had the ability. I remember at a Little League game. I was up to bat, and it was almost like this Hollywood movie. I was up to bat, and the stealth bomber came flying over, and none of us knew what it was because it really wasn't a thing yet. Like, it wasn't publicized what it was. So that at the time was an unidentified flying object.
But see, what my main point was going to be, we grew up in an area where UFOs, Area 51, aliens, and all that's more prominent. Now, my wife is from the East Coast in New York, and I do have a theory, like, a lot of New Yorkers believe in ghosts and that whole psychics and all that, right?
I don't know. There's more alien probes, I think, in the Northeast.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that part, but what I'm saying is also in New York, there's so many fucking lights you can't see as much, right? You know what I mean? When we were
Right.
growing up as a night, we could see a lot more.
Well, and we lived in the middle of nowhere, dude.
Right, but
So,
even Arizona, stuff like that, you do have that.
Sky is just beautiful at night.
And so my wife doesn't believe in UFOs or aliens. And so I find it funny because she believes in the one I don't, and I believe in the one that she doesn't. Although my list is a lot longer of things I believe in because I think things can't be explained. And I think some of it's I want to believe. I can't deny it. Like I believe in, used to believe in the Loch Ness monster. I was one of those guys. I always really was into cryptozoology, like cryptids, like studying it. And not that it's a real fucking science. It's like a pseudoscience, right? Like these guys, it's not recognized. You can't go get a fucking degree in crypto.
Yeah, it's like today's coronavirus. Oh, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah. So anyways, but no, like, and then when they proved, like, you know, they came out and said, oh, that photo was fake and stuff. It's like, well, do you still believe in it? And then other people have those stories. And especially with nowadays with cameras getting better, like there's less and less like great sightings, right?
Right.
There's like, it was easy to film a Bigfoot video because it was fuzzy and, you know, and it's up in the Northwest. Like, do you believe in Bigfoot?
So it's interesting you ask that. I think that there is probably a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, but it's not what we think. Like, it's not this humanoid gorilla looking thing. It's probably like a type of bear,
like a big beast.
Yeah, it's a big beast. And you know, here's the reason why. I mean, we live in a time where we have Google Earth, right? Mm-hmm. And so with Google Earth, we can like look at any place. Like you could find a dude walking naked down the street on Google Earth if you really wanted to.
Right.
But we also live, I think with the way that technology is, we think that everything's been discovered. And I don't think that everything's been discovered. And I think that there's a lot of land masses that are still discovered. Like there's a place, I want to say it's right outside of Egypt, that's an island that like nobody's been able to infiltrate, because anytime somebody goes over there, they get killed. And it's probably not by Egypt. I don't think it's by Egypt, but it's somewhere. And if I can remember what it is.
Island somewhere. People are just fucking dying.
No, but it's I
know what you're talking about though.
It's an Aborigine type island, and I don't remember exactly where it's at. It might
locals
actually be off
don't let anybody get there.
Right. And if you do get there, you get killed. And so there's no communication, there's no technology, there's none of that. Like what exactly is on the island? Like you can fly a drone over there, of course, probably. But what are you going to find? You know, and so that's why I think that there could be a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, but it's probably not in the manner that we're identifying it today.
See, I believe in for a few reasons. One, I agree with you. I don't think it's what people make it out to be.
It's not Harry and the Hendersons.
No, I don't. You know, and the other thing is, but there's too many stories and too many similar creatures like it all over the world. And it also makes sense, you know, depending if you go down the evolution track and stuff. But the other thing is, though, like you said, there's too much land that's been undiscovered, and things have stayed hidden forever.
Right.
I mean, one of my least favorite quotes of all time. I hate when I hear this, like, because I love watching like deep sea explorers, like, because I remember I always believed in the giant squid, which I always found weird. They said it didn't exist, but it would wash up on shore, right? And they finally got one on video, and when people go, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do the bottoms of the oceans. You know fucking why, B-word? Because there's nothing on the fucking moon. It's easy to know more about the surface of the moon. I can tell you what's on the surface. I'm not even a fucking scientist. You know what there is? There's dust and rocks and no atmosphere.
That's true.
And you know what's in the bottom of the ocean? A lot of shit.
The bottom of the ocean scares me, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie. Having that absolute darkness. So I live right outside of Virginia City. And if anybody wants to look up Virginia City, Nevada, if you don't live in the area or you're not familiar, Virginia City, Nevada was a famous place for being a gold mine back in the gold rush days. And there are tunnels and mines and all of this stuff that are still there. You can tour them. Some of them you can't even go near because they're unstable. But they actually have on the main drag of Virginia City, inside of I think it's a casino or a bar, one of the two. They actually have a mine that you can go in and you can tour. It takes you back like, I don't know, 300 yards maybe. But at the end of this tour, they turn off all the lights. And that absolute darkness that you feel right there, I think is freakier than anything else because you literally have no concept of what's around you. And that absolute darkness is scary. And that's what you find at the bottom of the ocean, dude. Like we've only like discovered just a small percentage of shit in the ocean. Like we know nothing about the ocean.
Yeah, but you know what we know? The fucking surface of the moon.
Well, yeah, but like you said, it's all rocks and dust and you know your old porn mags.
So I'm afraid of the deep ocean. We know that we've talked about deep water, but I think the difference is I wouldn't really be bothered, I guess, by the mine. I guess especially on a tour. Now, mind if I just went into a mine and it was pitch black, I'd be a little scared. I don't know what's going on. But the ocean, because there's pressure,
right?
You're also in a form of something that you don't belong. Like God put me on land for a reason, right?
Right.
Water, the things in the water are meant to be in the water, so they already have an advantage. So I've already put myself at a disadvantage. So if anything came at me, I'm fucked. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's some little tiny like shrimp dick, and I still might be. I don't know, but I could probably punch that and get away. But anything else, I'm screwed.
I don't know exactly how hard you'd be able to punch a shrimp dick underwater.
Shrimp dick, bro. You just flick it. You flick it, bro.
But the amount of force that the water's going to put against your finger or your fist, you're not going to be able to hit it very hard.
Well, okay. It depends if the shrimp dick's hard or not. See, there's variables here.
So what you're saying is that the draft of the current underwater is dependent upon the shrimp's erection.
What I'm saying is when this happened, I was naked and the shrimp had a hard dick, and that's why he came at me. So I flicked him in the shrimp dick.
He came at you, all right.
Well, see, like, but back on track with cryptids, right? Like I believe in a lot of them. Like I said, like Ogopogo. I want to believe, right? Or Champy, like those lake monsters, right?
Right.
The problem is I also feel like a lot of them were created for economical reasons.
Well, do you think that sometimes they were created? I understand the economical reasons. I get that, and I'll let you explain that here in a minute. But do you think that they were more created for folklore, though? Like to try to teach some sort of ethics or morality for those people of that age?
I think when you're in old countries like Scotland and stuff, yeah. When you're in fucking New Mexico or what is it? There's a Loveland frogman in Loveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
You know their whole history from 1778.
You know what he is, dude? You know what he is? That's an old man standing up. He's got no ass. Yeah, so he looks like a frog.
No, what I'm saying is though, like I don't think there's any validity with the old tale. Like, hey, you kids better watch out, or old no ass is gonna come get you with his webbed toes. Like, oh, you better eat your dinner, or the Loveland frog will come bite your dick off. Like, I mean, if somebody said it to me,
what does he say though? Like the Loveland frog's coming. Like he's not even hopping because at this point he's fucking walking, right? And like flies are around him and his fucking tongue's going everywhere. Is he like fucking ribbit, boys?
No,
fucking ribbit.
I hope he's a fucking Battletoad. And I hope, like, remember, you played Battletoads, right? Battletoads. Do you remember that fucking video game? That great game. So remember how like there was what is it? Zit, Wart, or Zit, Rash, and Pimple. And Pimple was like the giant fucking one that you couldn't play. Right. And I always wanted to play that big motherfucker because I'm like, all right, I'm over here with this green one with like cool shades, you know, the 80s like triangular shades.
Right.
That fucking video game was hard, man. Do you remember playing that video game?
I do. It's been fucking forever. I don't remember the storyline at all, but I remember turning it on. There is no
storyline. It's giant fucking toads fighting pigs in space, B-word. That's when crows. When you're coming down, these crows and these Venus flytraps. Anyways, So the frogman is like a fucking battle toad, okay? He's not who ribbit motherfucker. No, he's gonna kick your ass. So that one I might be afraid of. But then again, I would have just hired the Ninja Turtles to come to fucking Ohio for once.
You're stupid.
But see, like, there's
dude. Like we're talking we're talking about cryptid characters. You're like, I'm gonna hire the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, dude.
Like, fuck off.
No, dude, even if you show, I would hire the puppet guy. I would hire the ones like remember the Ninja Turtles on tour where they played guitar and shit. I'd hire that Michelangelo to come fight fucking the frog. No.
Oh man.
But so there's like so there's like also like what I don't know. I don't know why I try to fucking pronounce shit on the show. Macaulay Maybe, the Congo like long,
Oh, the dinosaur.
Yeah, the long neck.
I don't know. Again, like I don't know much about the Congo. I've never been there. And the Congo is pretty much inhabited by, and I don't want to use the word aborigines, but by natives who, again, don't have a whole lot of technology. There's not a whole lot of anything in there, but I would, you also hear about like the pythons or the anacondas that are going through the Congo there. Like I would almost think that, again, like with Sasquatch or Bigfoot, that there is probably a big ass reptile in there, and it's and that's what they're mistaking it for. Maybe it's a big ass lizard, like, but again, I think that one's shaped like more like a brontosaurus than a reptile. But I do think that, when you're looking at stuff like that it's really shadows and all of that sort of stuff is really easy to kind of try to make legs on a snake,
Well, like also they say like the whole Bigfoot thing, like we when we're in a certain state, whether it's confusion, quickness, fear, excitement, anything, right?
Right.
You can tend to see things like they say like we have that, I don't know what the term is, where we see faces on things.
Yeah.
So like remember when they said there was a face on Mars?
Yeah.
Due to that grainy ass fucking photo with shadows.
Yeah.
Like that,
or we see Jesus' face in a thing of toast.
Right. Like that we're akin to notice features like ours because that's what we do when we're babies.
It's familiar.
Yes. And so I think sometimes people confuse it with that, but like do you believe in like the ones like the Mothman or the Jersey Devil? Okay.
No. I would say like if there are cryptids that are viable, that they have a really good chance of being real, I would say that you're probably looking at Bigfoot / Sasquatch, and like I said, it's probably a bear or something of that nature.
Like the creatures that are just like actual wild animals that are just probably just bigger than normal, that we hope that it's, something of the past. Right. I think that's another thing, is that we really want to see things that, like you were saying earlier, like, your whole Merlin days of, dragons and stuff. Like we wish those were around. I love dinosaurs. I would love to have a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah, I've seen Jurassic Park, and I saw what the T-Rex could do. So I don't necessarily know that I want to be around a dinosaur. Especially like I've seen elephants. Like there's videos of elephants like sitting down and some dude's head gets trapped in their butthole. Like could you imagine like a rhinoceros is just like, oh, I'm just going to sit right here, and like all of B word ends up in his butthole. Like that's not anything that I want to do. But I do think that, like again, like the chupacabra, right? That's in Southern America. It's in Northern Mexico. I think it's that very well could be a big ass coyote, or something of that nature. I think that some of these things are explainable. I just don't know which one is which.
See, and I always want to go back to, I want to, because I enjoy like the shows about it, and people like, because I used to watch a show called Monster Hunter or Monster Quest on History Channel.
Okay.
And I liked it. It would teach me about the cryptid and all this. But the problem I had is I'll never forget, the girl I was dating at the time one time comes over and goes, "Why the fuck do you watch this show?" I was like, "Oh, what if?" And she goes, "If they found it, this show, it wouldn't be on this crappy show. It would have been on the news." And so then I went, "Oh, well, that ends the ending of this show every fucking time," because they're like
people that watch this? Ghost Hunters. Yeah.
Like,
and that's the same thing. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but we were talking about ghosts. Like, we don't believe in ghosts, or you don't believe in ghosts, and I think that
Believe in
there's
some
probably
spirit,
some
yeah.
credibility there. But you know, when you're talking about a haunted house, you know, like I had a friend of mine recently share her ADT video of her living room on Facebook. And it looked like there was a piece of dust that flew off of her ceiling fan and landed on the ground. And she said, I think this is an orb. And then of course there's like 38 comments as to like what it might be. Is it an orb? I don't know. I wasn't there, you know, but I think people want things to be there. And I also think that sometimes when you start to talk about mysticism, like, you know, I think people want things to be there. Like, you know, we were talking about comic books, right? Black Panther has that afterlife. I forget what that's called.
The plains of yeah, I know what you're talking
about. But anywhere where all the panthers and the panther god reside. And I think that sometimes people want things to be like that, accessible to to, you know, their current atmosphere, their current world. I just don't know that that's the case, you know. And with haunted houses and these sort of things, houses creak, man, especially old houses. Like the wind blows and it moves things around, you know, and pipes make sounds. And so it's really hard for me to like just up and say, yes, everything is real. Is there some credibility behind it? Yeah, I think in some cases there could be.
I will say this though, like if you believe, good for you. Like have something. You got to have something, right? You got to have something. Like my mom, I have a lot of friends and my mom and family that are into like the crystals and shit.
Yeah, I'm not into anything like that.
No, but I do have a funny story about it though. There's one up here called Celestial Awakenings, right? And this little dude works there. And he taught my wife how to, it's called gridding your house, I guess, where you buy crystals and you put them in certain areas of your house and it's supposed to, you know, do its crystal fucking magic or whatever, right? You know, the only crystal I believe in is the dark crystal. And it's beside the point, but
you're talking about the animated movie.
I love that fucking movie.
That movie fucking sucks.
Oh, you shut like, your fucking mouth, you skexy bitch.
It fucking sucks, dude. It's like Fraggle Rock meets Willow.
Dude, it's terrible. What's so great about it. You're an asshole. Anyway, so I'm in this fucking crystal store. And the guy's like going, "Oh, you're," to my wife and my mom, "Oh, your son and your husband, he doesn't really like this place, right?" And she's like, "No." He goes, "Well, it's amazing he sat in that chair." And I'm looking at him like, "Oh, fuck you, dude. What are you going to say?" He's like, "That chair is for people with more negative energy." He starts going off about this whole fucking thing, right? So he's like, "Hey, hold this crystal." So he hands me his crystal and he's like, "Oh, is it hot?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, that's because your body aura doesn't like it." I'm thinking, no, because you probably had it in your pocket for 9 hours, you pocket rocket, bro. So I'm in there and he always gives me crap. So I decided one time to go get my mom and my wife a gift there and I go by myself. And this is the only time I ever sort of fucking believed is that I'm up there and I'm trying to pay and the credit card machine stops working. And he just looks up at me and he goes, "Your aura is really bad." I go, "What?" And he goes, "Everything has broken now because you're here."
It's because of your attitude. You just have a terrible attitude. That's why you're called Jake the Hater.
Bjorn, I don't have a terrible attitude. I don't believe this shit. I'm not going to go be fake. Okay, would you rather me be a fake person than they're like, "Oh yeah, these crystals"? I mean, like, I'm not going to. I'm just going to be upfront. Look here, I'm supporting your store. I'm buying something for somebody that does believe this shit. It's not like I shit on that idea. I at least showed up and bought them something from here, asshole. Don't tell me that my aura ruined your credit card machine. It's called fucking internet.
It's the same thing when people burn sage. Like, you know, people burn sage in their house.
Yeah, my wife does it every time we get in. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you just made it smell bad. Like, but so we talked about though that, you know, my family celebrates Native American heritage because, you know, we're Native American, whatever. Dream catchers. Like, I love dream catchers. Do I believe that they catch the bad dreams? No.
Huh.
Like, as a matter of fact, I like women who have dream catchers for their belly button rings
underneath their tits. It's the new tramp stamp, bro. It's a great fucking tattoo.
Yeah, it's a great tattoo.
It catches your dreams.
It starts the dream.
It's holding your dreams.
I do think that. So you know how? So when we were growing up, like, belly button rings kind of became a thing, and they weren't just like a stud, right? You would
it's a
get the
dangler.
ones that would hang
You get a
down,
little
you
dangler.
dangle.
Yeah.
Like for some women, they needed to hang like one of those like trees, those scented trees.
Dude, okay,
Like you've got a new car scent belly button ring.
I won't say which one, but one of my ex-girlfriends she never washed her belly button.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, because she was always talking, oh, I want to get a belly button ring. And I was like, well, why don't you? She goes, well, I don't believe in washing the inside of my belly button. And I'm like, what? She had it, Annie. So one night, B-word, I'm sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I just rammed my finger in it.
Oh, you're disgusting.
I pull it out and it smelled so bad, dude.
That's nasty.
And I was like, how is this a fucking thing?
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you rather lick the disgustingness of a belly button, or would you rather lick toe jam?
Is it the belly button I'm talking about, or just any belly button?
Whatever belly button you want.
Oh, I'll lick a belly button. I like belly buttons.
But it has to have the
funk.
gunk.
Oh, it's still the belly button. I'm more into the navel than the feet. I'm not a feet dude. Like, it's not that I don't know. I used to sell women's shoes, dude. I've seen what women do to their feet. It's not a fucking pretty sight, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I'd probably have to. I think I trust a belly button more than I do toe jam.
Right.
So
all right.
I'll probably go with that.
Let's do it this way then, since we talked about this shit. Would you rather cuddle with Yeti naked because it's cold, but you don't know what's going to happen? Or go down on the Jersey Devil?
I'd rather cuddle with a Yeti naked. And here's the reason why, because I'd feel a lot like Luke Skywalker. Like maybe I'd gut him and like hop in his belly.
No, it's going to be the one with the one arm, dude, that's going to like fucking ramrod you, dude.
Up front.
It's a Yeti. He killed a tauntaun. That's a fucking giant llama with horns.
That doesn't mean that I can't gut him and get into his belly and stay warm.
He's going to gut you and get in your belly.
God, I hope not. All right. So who do you think would win out of a fight between a chupacabra and the frog dude from Ohio?
See, it's an easy setup to say the chupacabra, right? Because
right.
But I'm going frogman, bro, because he's a fucking battle toad. He's so going hard. He's going to kick the shit out of the chupacabra.
See, I kind of see that fight going down where, when you're a little kid and like your dad or your uncle or whatever, like they put their hand on your forehead and you're trying to like hit them and you're swinging at air. Yeah. I kind of see like the frogman of Ohio would just use his tongue in that fashion. Like he just hold off whatever's coming at him and they just try to claw him and scratch him and everything. But like they couldn't reach him because his tongue's holding him off.
All right. So would you rather have your belly button licked by the frogman's tongue or your toe jam?
I could probably justify somebody licking my toe, even though that's not what I'm interested in, rather than somebody trying to dig through my big fat belly to get to any belly button. So I'm going to go with that.
Dude, here's what I imagine too. It's sort of like the lasso duck shooting its penis across the room.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, dude.
Sitting on the couch with no shirt and the frogman just shooting it like Hawkeye right in that hole.
Could you imagine, dude? He'd like pull out some sort of lint and he'd just be smacking his lips. That was really good.
Oh, he would not. Dude, he would not say it was good. He would walk out.
See, I think the frogman. I think the frogman has the personality of Booger Man. Like he's just all about it.
Yeah. I loved that video game.
So did I. That was my favorite one. I can't tell you how many times I rented that.
Oh, dude, that was one of the ones like all right, when you grew up in Pahrump, did you rent from Adventureland Video or the video store mainly in Smith's before Hollywood Video? Remember that?
I don't know that I ever lived there at that time.
Okay.
I lived there, but I don't know that I actively rented anything because I think the only thing that I rented from was Hollywood Video, and that was when we were in high school.
Yeah, because I remember when they had the video store in the Smiths.
Yeah.
and it was in the corner, and we had video games. And my dad, I remember my dad rented the shittiest video games. He rented a video game called Rampart. You build
Okay.
castles and shoot cannons at each other, but it's like Tetris mixed with shooting cannons at each other.
Really?
It's yeah.
That's
And
odd.
he rented it and he refused to bring it back. And I'll never forget my mom kept getting calls going, hey, like the library, you have a late fee on this. And my mom kept blaming me and my brother until she finally found out it was my father who had a video game. He ended up paying like $80 for this shitty Genesis game because he refused to bring it back.
So this has nothing to do with our conversation tonight, but it has everything to do with what I was thinking about earlier today.
Okay.
We live in a generation that spent time in music stores, like record stores.
Yeah.
We also grew up in a generation that would rent movies, and if the movie was not available behind the case, we would just wait until it was returned, right?
Yeah.
We also live in a generation where we couldn't save video games. So if you were going to beat the video game, you had to like do all night or all day to beat it.
Yeah, unless you bought it. But I mean, also, we were smart enough. I mean, I think we were, me and you. I mean, every now and then you bought the dud, right? You'd buy that shitty game.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, you bought Zelda on Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
You bought
Nintendo,
1080
Super
snowboarding
Nintendo, yeah.
for when your friends came over. You bought Mario Kart, right? There were the games you bought. And then everything else, like Booger Man and stuff, you didn't go spend fucking money on. You rented it,
No.
which, mind you, in the long term, if you look at it, probably fiscally, it would have made sense to buy the game. But you know what I mean? Like, you didn't own that game. Like Vector Man. I remember when Vector Man came out because Garrett Marcotte, fucking fourth grade, wouldn't shut up about this game, so I went and got it. And I hate it. My favorite one was Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim was a good game.
I loved Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, that was a good game. I think so. There were video games and that we would purchase for the sole purpose of multiplayer, right? Like you could play GoldenEye, and you can do all of that sort of stuff. But when you had people over, when you were doing multiplayer, it was in the same room, or it was right next to two TVs for those rich people. I was never a rich people that had two TVs, but you can hook up the game systems and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought it was weird. But that's as I was reflecting today and just kind of thinking about that generation, because they talk about like the Oregon Trail generation and the Saved by the Bell generation and that sort of stuff. I just think that it's fascinating. Kind of like how you were talking about how Katie doesn't believe in aliens, and you really don't believe in ghosts, kind of thing. How like that was segregated more or less by geographic location, but some of these traits that we're talking about are segregated by certain generations.
Yeah, well, like, because I mean, also, I always rented multiplayers for two reasons. One, always had a lot of friends over, and I had a little brother, and we're very close. And so me and him had to get games, and plus we enjoyed playing with each other. And I think that's the difference with our generation too. If you look at most games now, how often are they, unless it's like an MMORPG online, like World of Warcraft and stuff, which has been around for a while, but you know what I mean? Like, how often, besides like Call of Duty as well, I guess, where it's a multi-shooter and you connect online, are people playing games that are meant to be multiplayer? A lot of people, you know what I mean? Like, you can sit in your house and yeah, you can connect with your friend down the road, but there was something to be said about me calling you up and having you come over and play in a shitty Supercross game all night, sitting next to each other, and that instead of, I mean, and then there's nothing. I mean, that's their generation.
Or you would build, like I remember there were racing games where you could build like stadiums and you can race in the stadium. There was a lot of time spent on nothingness, which I think was beautiful, because now we're like sensory overload in a lot of different ways, and I think that doesn't allow us to like sit back and appreciate it.
Well, no, look at cartoons. Like, and I mean, I always laugh because I remember my parents would be like, "Oh, our cartoons back in the day," and I like old 50s cartoons and stuff, but like the 90s and 80s cartoons, I loved them.
Right.
And you watch them now, and it's like watching a sugary cereal acted out.
Yeah.
It's so vibrant, so loud, and crazy. Yeah, and I just don't get it. I've tried to watch like Teen Titans Go with my kiddos and stuff, and I can't I can't get into any of it. There's just way too much going on all at fast. I understand the humor and I understand some of the points, but it's not for me.
Right. I agree, man.
It's a fucking walking advertisement. And I'm not saying ours weren't either. We bought the toys for the Ninja Turtles and stuff, but there were still lessons and there was still cartoon. You know what I mean? There was a lot more to it. And I watch a lot more and it seems like a lot of that's lost.
No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Well, hey, this has been kind of a random episode.
All over the place.
Yeah, it's been all over the place. Good discussion. I want to shout out. We've got merch. We have shirts, hats, stickers, cell phone cases, whatever you want. Check out our Linktree, linktree.com/bleachbrospodcast. That will get you to all of our merch. That will get you to all of our socials. That'll get you to all the streaming platforms that you can listen to our podcast on. We have some guests coming up this month, so make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you're following us. We have some pretty good content coming for the rest of the month, and it should be pretty exciting. And with that, Jake, I'm going to go ahead and just shout out. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, invite your friends, all of that sort of stuff. And what do you got for me?
I actually have something. So thank you. Our viewership has been growing. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And thank you for everybody that's been sharing it. It's been a fun journey so far. We hope to keep continuing it. And thanks for all the dirty talk. Come back, get sanitized.